Thank you so much, Margaret and Catalina, for wonderful presentations. I think both of these presentations really demonstrated the partners' commitment to values of community-based participatory research, including mutual respect, co-learning, learning from each other, mutual decision-making, and translating research to action. I've had the great fortune of seeing them present together several times, and each time I see them, I'm very struck by the collaborative spirit that I see and the mutual respect that they have for each other. So I want to open up some space for questions and some discussion, and I want to actually start with a question that I have for both of you. Related to your different backgrounds and experiences, and also your sort of social and cultural identities, reflecting on positions of power and privilege that you have that may be different from each other, and how all of these different experiences and backgrounds have affected your work together, and over time how that has changed, or how you're learning from each other and your experience working together has been dynamic and helped you to further build and sustain your partnership. I know it's a bit of a challenging question, but if you could reflect a little bit on who you are and what you bring to the partnership and how that has affected your work together.
Yeah, that's sort of the million-dollar question. I think, and actually we recently co-authored an article on power and privilege and participatory research partnerships based on our partnership between Pacific Institute and West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project over the past decade plus. So we did kind of reflect a lot on this question, but not so much from a personal, I think, level, but I think for me, I think that working with Margaret has really been such an honor. Like I tear up just really thinking about how much I've learned from her, from you, Margaret. I really have. I feel like, you know, even though I've had a lot of, it was sort of, I guess, educational privilege and class privilege. My father's has a doctorate. He's a computer science professor. And I have a master's degree. I'm working on my doctorate. I think that I've learned, I've sort of gone to like the school of Margaret Gordon over the past decade, and learned a lot about what it really means to kind of challenge what you think of as an understanding of the world that may not necessarily, you know, be the way of really understanding what others' experiences are on that issue. And so I think for me it's really meant like putting aside that kind of intellectual way of looking at things and really connecting to my heart and spirit, and making this really personal. And I think that's something that Margaret's really, you know, one of the biggest gifts of working with you, Margaret, has been that, because I think it's really become a kind of a journey, a healing journey, in a way. And it's all, I think ultimately a lot of this work is about that. It's really about restoring relationships and healing those relationships. And sort of, when I first became involved in formally, you know, as a student with West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project, I was part of this, you know, my graduate institution, and that institution had kind of a checkered history in West Oakland. There was kind of a lot of, there were a lot of tensions at that time between this particular institute I was working at, not where I work now, but another institute, and some of the community-based organizations in West Oakland. I sort of kind of stepped into that as a student and was really, you know, I kind of was blind to it when I started kind of seeing things. and then I was just, didn't know, sort of not sure how I was going to navigate those dynamics. And so I went through a little bit of hazing, I would say, and rightfully so. I think that you can't just expect trust to be handed to you, especially in a community where people have had their knowledge or their sense of wariness comes from a real set of experiences and history that's been kind of passed on through generations of residents in that community. And it comes from a real place, and so I think just being able to acknowledge that goes a long way. And not using the fact that you just came into that as an excuse not to engage with it. I think it's really important to go beyond just acknowledging it, but trying to figure out how can you be part of restoring the relationship or healing, that healing process of maybe that requires institutional change. And how can you be that change agent too, and not just kind of be passively there or, as a bystander. So I think that that's what, try to stay true to, in my role as a student at Berkeley, and then, still, I guess, just in my interactions with that institution is really try to lift up this different way of being in the world as a student and also, as a student of the community, just as much as you're a student of whatever your discipline is, there's a lot of learning that happens outside of the classroom. And even just being a bridge or a conduit to connect those two worlds can be really valuable. But ultimately it's about kind of creating that space and then stepping aside, or making sure that it's widening enough for other people to come into it. Because I think it's, there's something really important about that process that's part of letting go too. Letting go of, the ideas that you might have about what it means to become known in your field or build a career out of something. Really, it's something much bigger than that. And so I think those are just the thoughts that come to me now. But
thank you, Catalina. As much as you said, you learn from me, I also learn from you. One thing I learned from you is about being patient, because I do not have any patience. And also be more astute as having more effective listening, because I'm known for shooting from the hip. Because I'm gonna ask that question, and I want to answer right then and there. I want to answer right then and there. Most professionals, researchers, regulatory people don't have that kind of voice within themselves to be able to ask the question and relate it from a community person based on their experience. That is something that will make a community person, an organization, write a letter or make a telephone call to the agency director and say, don't send them back to my neighborhood because they're a problem. Because they don't know how to come up with common goals. Let's find a way to what we agree to disagree. They don't know how to speak the language. They want to be at the head of the table, or they think that because they have a lot of initials behind their name, they know better than you. And I don't play that. I don't play that. And so if you really want to work with me in coalition or problem solving, let's keep reducing the common denominator and find out what our differences are. All right? And I have a problem about being in a dialogue or discussion. You don't get to say, my experience is less in your research or what you read in the book or what you experienced. I think all experiences have value. And so, so that question that you asked, one of the first things you have to do, know who you are dealing with when you come into a room. Always pay attention to who you're dealing with. Do your Googles, you do whatever you got to do before you go sit down with somebody. I'm serious. When I became a commissioner, we'll give you a really good experience. I don't come from a financial background. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a teacher. I don't own a company. I've never worked with Fortune 500. I've never been in these things. So when I was appointed as a port commissioner by Mayor Ron Gollums, I asked him, are you sure you want me to do this? He said, you're sending a message. Okay, you know what kind of message I send? He said, yes, I do. I know what kind of message you're going to send. All right? So, if I had to learn a couple things by being in what you call a conservative, male-dominated, conservative, white, male-dominated industry of shipping, I had to learn 3 things. I never spoke without singing, without having a note to myself. I knew my agenda, and if I felt too frustrated, I got it in my purse, went into the bathroom and screamed inside of it. I wiped the back of my head. And then trying to recoup myself and writing a note. I never said anything, any meeting, without writing a note to myself. Spoke from my words. Because I want to be very clear what I'm saying. Because it's being recorded. I want to be very clear. I want to be pointed what I was trying to get across. And some people in the room didn't like that. Oh, well. Yeah. Whatever. But I still, at the end of the day, I'm going back to 7th and Willow. I'm going to see your cousin, I'm going to see your mom, I'm going to see somebody's child I know who is having a difficult time from just being living in that area. I don't care who you are, all right? So it's always been my role, like the professor said, you got to be true to yourself. If you're going to lie to yourself, you better tell yourself a good lie. Because you don't have to go back and tell that message. Because you don't have to go back and repeat that message, what you said to somebody. Because somebody's going to call you. So when you start lying, somebody's going to catch you in that lie. So you always have to be true to yourself. So even in your research, don't do research that you can't explain, that you did your best to find an answer for that impacted person or community or organization. Don't do it. Because it will haunt you, it will come back, because somebody will come back and tell you, you are full of it. All right? And you may do it full of it, and may not take it to the side and take it. They may say it in a room full of people. You're full of them and tell you why you're full of it. Because you didn't measure this here, you did not take this in, and you didn't take this in according to this group of people, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. But that is about being true to yourself. And I had, like 21 years of being in West Oakland, I've only been involved in environmental justice for about 15 or 17 years. After that, I was total activist in a lot of different things, through school reform, research, doing a family resource center, doing violence prevention, doing case management as a parent advocate. But something happened when I found out in my community we were so impacted by these impacts of toxins in the soil and toxins in the air. And it just made me, this pissed me off so bad when Caltrans, who was the builder of the freeway and it fell and rerouted it, told the contractor, fill in, power drive in vinyl chloride and keep on building the freeway. That just set me off, and I've been aggravated since. But you've got to be true to yourself, and you've got to be true to your neighbors. Because you know, somebody's going to have to tell them what you did and how you do it. So the experience, and I just found out, it was always about being confrontational. I also, with learning how to use the research and the data collection, gave another set of a power to the community. Not empowerment, but real power to have the conversation with people who don't want to have that conversation with you. And so the community participatory research gave me that. So I can even quote, this is not, I didn't say this is what I read from this place where you should know the same thing. This came from the public health department, this came from here, you should have that same information. So let's don't play like you don't understand what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to say to Catalina, I've learned a lot from Catalina over the 17 years of being engaged with each other. And I really appreciate that too. And so I want to say to everybody else, don't say nothing, don't tell nothing that you can't explain. From research based, from messaging based, from community.
Thank you so much for the heartfelt and thoughtful responses. I can speak for myself, but I learned a lot from you this morning, and I'm sure others have too. I want to do a quick time check because I came up here without a... Okay, so we are behind. I think what we need to do at this point is open up for some discussion. We actually have to be out of this room by 11:30 today, so I think we're going to have to, flexibility is important in partnerships, and it's also important in conferences. So I think we'll have to plan to do the cultural humilities film at another time during the week, or perhaps this afternoon if we can find a time to do it. And so I want to open up the floor to some discussion because these have been wonderful presentations, and I want to take questions from you. And if you could raise your hand, and if you can speak loudly, you may not need the mic, but please state your name and where you're from so that we know a little bit about who you are. So I see a hand in the back there.
Thank you. I can speak very loud.
Okay.
And of course, I want to start by saying this is a model of using community-based participatory research. This is a nonprofit and a nonprofit. And often we get into a real dilemma when we bring in a university. The reason why this works is because the agencies are able to make the commitment to continue to work together. So you build that relationship. And I'm hoping throughout this conference, you will focus on how do we get that with the university? Because often communities wind up working with a junior researcher who has to move on to the next research project in order to complete their own career goals, which is fine. But how do we get the university, and I'm not talking about San Francisco State, which is my alma mater, I'm talking about academia. How do we get the university to move to a culture where they acknowledge that this takes the amount of time and the long-term commitment that we've seen with this relationship?
And also, can you say your name and where you're from?
I'm Karen Pierce. I'm also a native of this area of San Francisco, and I represent Bayview Hunters Point on environmental justice issues, and I also work for the San Francisco Department of Public Health.
Thank you. Does either of you want to address the question? Or?
It was just a comment.
Okay. All right.
Hello everyone, my name is Erican Obote-Takudo, and I do HIV research at the San Francisco Department of Public Health. Thank you so much today for your presentation. I kind of had a similar question in how, in that moment when you're with stakeholders and you're with the head honchos of the finance department and the digital companies, how you communicate to them considering those power dynamics that you mentioned, perhaps specifically that the
So I just asked what are some of the strategies or things that they've used in their experience in trying to communicate the needs that they have or that they represent when they're in meetings with the head honchos, stakeholders, finance people that may not ordinarily think of the things that they're trying to convey and may not even value what they have to say. So how do you communicate with these people who might be a brick wall, essentially?
Well, it's been my experience. First thing, if I don't like, if you present something and I can see something that's not something that will impact my community or something that's supposed to impact my community, I want to put it in the question to you. And if you continuously tell me some regulatory alphabet soup, all right, I got you. That means that you don't know either. So so you need to move to the side. Next, move to the side because you cannot. Because if you have to repeat to me some regulatory alphabet soup, I don't need you there. I need you to talk about either how you're going to reduce or release the burden on the community. I don't need you to tell me how wonderful you are, or what you have, what you're supposed to do, or some regulatory, you're gonna stay within the law. I don't need that. So I have to tell you that I respectfully disagree with you. And you should feel so empowered in yourself that you can tell them I disagree with you. And I don't like how you put that, or can you put that in another form of an answer that's related to the impact of this community, or what you're supposed to do with the law? So, are you supposed to do with the regulation? So you have to keep drilling away to get the answer, the truth to the matter. Because some folks are very deceptive, and it may not be intentionally deceptive, but you have to keep pushing that button to not go beyond the consideration. Because that's not what I want. I don't want the consideration. I want the actuals and the factuals. That you're going to do something that will take the burden off of this community. So you have to, you have to be vigilant, and you have to psych them out. Because if you don't psych them out, they will psych you out. I'm serious. All right? And you also got to know who your allies in the room are to support you in getting your point. If you don't know the allies in the room, you really in a bad shape. Because if you're there by yourself, oh well, next time you got to bring somebody with you. But actually, you got to keep telling. If you disagree with something, you got to really be able to counterpoint that disagreement and why you disagree. All right.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Nard. I am from the University of Texas School of Public Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. And I have a related question, speaking of allies and adversaries. Within community groups, I'm completely not, I have a research background, but I have no experience with community-based statistical research, which is why I'm here to learn. But within groups, I can only imagine that not everyone agrees. And I just wanted to see if you could comment a little bit about within the community groups, how do you negotiate those relationships, particularly when you have people who have very different opinions about which research direction to take, and just on that particular, on any one particular project, how does that negotiation happen?
Well, generally, when EIP do something, we do prioritization, all right? And we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You want to continue to have the dialogue and discussion, And you're gonna be, and we both have that dialogue and discussion, come up with some common ground, some common place. Okay, that's good. If we can't come to that common ground, we put it to the side here and work with those things that we can work with like this time. And we don't want to forget about that. All right. Yeah, you're gonna have people who are just, would you say,
Strong personalities.
yes, very strong personalities. But you have to, but sometimes you have to, and sometimes, like I said, you have to have allies. You know, like you have to have allies, and you have to have, you have to have people who will support you, but at the same time, but you always have to back up a little bit. There's nothing wrong about backing up and retreating back to be able to go forward. All right? But I found out maybe this, if we can agree at this time this does not fit the priorities that we're trying to do, and later on it does, let's work on it later on. Right now, let's fit the, just do this laundry list, or do our shopping list of stuff that we can get done right now. Now, if you have the truth, if you have the resources, the capacity to deal with this other item on here, go for it. I'm not going to stop you from going for it. But right now, if we're in agreement of this shopping list, that's good. If you want to go over here, you can go over here. And you have my blessing. But I just hope that you can come back and communicate with me what you have done, where you are taken to, who are you trying to organize with, who you have a conversation with. I want to be able for us to have that space, that space, that safe space to have a conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think that for us, these multi-issue neighborhood level indicators projects are sort of a way of structuring relationship building with a broad range of community organizations and leaders in the communities where we've done them. But so it was partly, figuring out that process of prioritization, but also hashing out, what are some of the differences in strategy, getting to understand what that community history across these institutions are. I think a lot of times we, or researchers don't necessarily take the time to do that. And so you kind of come in with maybe a certain set of, disciplinary knowledge or a credential in some area or a specialized research interest. But, it can't operate in a vacuum, right? In a community context. You have to really get to understand the history of that community and from the people who are there and who are directly impacted by the issue. So not necessarily, the historian at the university's version of that history, but the actual leader. So a lot of that is going to come out in the process of building relationships. And then once you have established a trusting relationship, people will share some of that with you. It may be layers there may be layers of dynamics in history, and so you won't necessarily always be privy to all to it until or maybe never be privy to all of it as someone who's not from that community. But I think it's just part of the process and the time that needs to be invested in really getting to understand a community. But I think it's also important to just be transparent. I mean, if you're working with time constraints or you only have an ability to contribute in a particular specialized field of research, put that out there in a way, then do the legwork to figure out, okay, how do I communicate that in a way that somebody without that background is going to understand and can relate to their own experience and priorities. But I think it's important to just put that on the table, too, if that's the situation, so that people can make an informed decision about whether or not they think that it's worth their time as a community organization to engage with you. If you're kind of coming in and you only have like 3 months and you already have a grant, and that's not the best time to start the relationship building. It's really to start way before you're thinking about doing community engaged research so that you can build a relationship out, have sort of a solid foundation around what the common ground is and the mutual benefit of partnering is, and then look into acquiring for resources to support that partnership. I mean, I would say that that's the better approach.
Thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions.
My name is Sineva Triggers. I'm from Seattle, Tacoma area, Washington State. I really appreciate it. This question is basically to Margaret. For me, as coming from community-based organization, I'm pretty new in the community. I am the president of the Samoan Nurses Organization in the state of Washington. Hearing your story, it really touched my heart. And my question is, because a lot of things that I hear out in the community, there are projects coming out, and then sometimes it says, we're not having it because we don't have fun. And I know I think the state of California is a rich state, that they have money. But for us out there in Washington, every time you start projects, sometimes they said, oh, we're out of money. We don't have fun. But my question is, for Margaret has been out in the community for a long time. Is there a time that you think to yourselves, it seems like that you are a really down-to-earth person, you can work no matter what. And is there a time that gives you the disappointment and you want to quit? And I'm pretty sure you do. But you're speaking from your heart, and that's what some of the organizations that stop there because there's no money. But is there a time that you said to yourself, I'm done, I don't want to go, but it seems like that there's a heart in you that continue this work. I'm pretty new in the community, and I'm trying, because of the diversity of the community, and that makes it a lot more difficult to deal with each community. But I'm particular to the Pacific Islanders and the Samoan community up in Washington. So it's some word of encouragement, the way you talk seems like that you go on no matter without fun.
Well, I turned 66 this year, and this year I tried to scale back. I really did try to scale back, maybe working 3 days a week, 2 days at my house, working at home. And also I have arthritis really bad in my knee, and it made me very tired. So only thing that's real, I'm just gonna tell you the truth, the only thing that's kept me down was when I had the flu. Other than that, I'm serious. When I had the flu, when I had arthritis start bothering me really bad. I just have the flavor and the taste of wanting to be engaged and be involved. Until I can find somebody to take my place, a cadre of young people want to take my place, I'm gonna be there. Right now, I'm drawing my Social Security and do these type of things, honorariums. I'm a volunteer. I'm a co-director, but I'm a volunteer. I spend just so happens I live in affordable housing, and I turned 66, so they gave me a senior rate now, okay? I'm gonna tell you, I use everything that's about the seniors, okay? And but I'm just gonna tell you, and I have a credit card. And keeps that, I'm telling you, that's what keeps me going. All I'm telling you, all the time if I had the flu and this arthritis have kept me from going back. And keeping going. Or I'm so pissed off, I need to take 2 days off. I'm so pissed off about something, I need 2 days to recoup myself, or I had to run myself raggedy, like going to city council to 1:30 in the morning. You know, or just like now, being here. I have to get on the plane and at 12 o'clock going to DC. I had a flood in my apartment. So I had to clean up water, wash clothes, and get myself together to be here today. I'm tired, but I know I'm gonna get a nap on the airplane and get me a cup of tea, and I'm be ready for this event I got to go to at the White House in DC. But I'm just telling you, that's the only time I really have not just want to give up, just want to stop. Even when I was not reappointed to the port, I'm one of the first residents, like I said, to be appointed to the port of Oakland, and I was one of the first residents to get a second term to be a commissioner on the port. Okay, I'm the mayor, the new mayor, and I had a disagreement, and she did not, and she passed the message on, or she promised a lot of things to the city council members and not to reappoint me. And that's one time I was very disappointed, depressed, but I had to shake it off and keep on rolling. All right, I had to shake it off, keep on rolling, go take my Prozac, whatever else I need. Go have me a glass of wine, keep on back, because there's a lot of work to be done. It's so much our communities being disproportionately impacted by this thing called freight movement, movement of freight in our communities. And people really don't, and we as a people, we as a country really do not see those impacts. And with this thing called climate change, and based on the fact of what happened in Katrina, people need to be in Texas, all right? And the fires, the big fires we had in Texas, because the hazardous chemical place killed what? How many people did it kill? So we're going to constantly have these impacts in communities, and communities don't have a real voice in regulating these people. All right? So you have to. So I feel so that my story is nothing unique to anybody else's story who really care about their community. Because if I have to care about myself, I got to care about my community. I got to care about the next generation. Because this is not these type of businesses coming into our communities. Really, they need to be re-educated about when they come into the community. I'm having the biggest fight with the city of Oakland right now, just on a mitigation plan, because they want to build a new port, and they don't want to deal with the issue of significant, unavoidable significant impacts from this thing called a port. And I know they can do it, but I'm gonna push this envelope till I have to push it off the table, or maybe turn over the table and it'll get done.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm sorry we have to end the discussion because we have to vacate this room only today at 11:30. But I want you to all stay put for just a moment so I can walk you through some logistics of the Institute and so you know where you're going next. But I want to give a big round of applause for Margaret.
Also, Margaret is not just attending an event at the White House, she's going to be honored in receiving an award. So I think we should thank her for coming.
Very well deserved. What?
I was nominated for the Champion of Change Citizen Science Award. Somehow I have no idea how my name got put in the pot. They got it.
So we feel very lucky to have you here, considering you're about to hop on a plane. So I just want to, so we will be in this room normally until noon. It's just today there's a group coming in at 12. So I just want to check in with folks and make sure you kind of know about the setup of the Institute. So we'll meet here every morning for keynote speakers, and we normally will have a break. I'm sorry we shortchanged you today. You didn't get your break from 10:45 to 11, but normally you'll have a break. Today instead you have an extended lunch. I encourage you to walk across to the Student Center, which is right over here. I don't know if I'm pointing the right direction, but if you go out of these exits, you'll hit the Student Center where there's a lot of eateries inside there. If you want to take more of a walk, you can also walk along 19th Avenue to Stonestown Mall. There's some eateries in there. There's a food court. And I think, you know, those are the main nearby options for food. But I encourage you also to eat in groups and get to know each other, learn a little bit about each other. Nina and I thought that we would propose to you to perhaps try to do the Cultural Humility film and discussion tomorrow morning early at 8:30. And so I'm going to invite any of you who are interested in coming that early. We'll try to actually show the film at 8:30. We're actually going to just show a couple segments of the film, but then have some discussion around cultural humility and what that means in our CVPR practice. So and I apologize that we didn't get to it today. So I want to make sure that everybody has signed up for 1 to 2:30 case studies. If you haven't signed up, the sheets are in the back. And so Rosa Parks rooms are in the Cesar Chavez Student Center, where probably many of you will go to have lunch. So you can just look, they're very well marked. I think some of those rooms are on the lower floors.